Hello, hello. I hope you're having a wonderful day. We are diving deeper into the world of adenomyosis today, and I want to talk about the role that hormones play, specifically estrogen. Now, if you caught me earlier this week, just a couple of days ago, you heard me say that adenomyosis is not just a hormone problem or even just an estrogen problem for that matter. However, estrogens do play a role, a pretty big one, as it turns out in the research. Not so much in the development of adenomyosis, but certainly in the aggravation of symptoms like the debilitating pain, the heavy periods primarily, but also things like bloating, feeling of fullness, nausea, vomiting, otherwise feeling awful, especially on your period. So I want to talk about that today because we can absolutely reduce your symptoms, manage your condition so that you aren't succumbing to your cycle every month. For some women, like my client Sharon, whom I spoke about on Monday, it can be 2 weeks every single month. So let's dive into the role that your hormones, particularly estrogens, play in adenomyosis. Now, as it turns out, research shows that the adenomyotic foci, the endometrial tissue that's growing inside the muscular wall of the uterus, has higher estradiol receptor expression. Now, what the heck does that mean? It means that in the case of adenomyosis, the tissue is more sensitive to estrogen, in particular estradiol, which is the primary estrogen that we produce during our reproductive years. Not only that, but studies also show that there is hyperestrogenic activity. So there's heightened amounts of estrogens being produced. And on top of that hyperexpression, there is also an excessive amount of aromatase. Now, what is aromatase? Aromatase is an enzyme that converts androgens like testosterone into estrogens like estradiol. So with adenomyosis, we've got a situation where we're already prone to producing more estrogens. We're converting more androgens into even more estrogens. And the adenomyotic tissue is extra sensitive to estradiol in particular. And as a result, you've got pain, heavy and prolonged bleeding. Now, here's another thing to consider as it pertains to estrogen. Remember, you make more than one form of estrogen. Okay. In particular, when it comes to adenomyosis, we have to think about how your liver is actually breaking estrogen down. We have to think about those estrogen metabolites because some forms of estrogen metabolites are good, while others are most definitely not. And they act even more strongly on these estrogen receptors, these specifically sensitive receptors, and they act more strongly than estradiol. Okay. It's these estrogen metabolites that can become particularly problematic in adenomyosis. Now, I've spoken about them before. Hopefully, you've heard me talk about this. It's the 4-OH and 16-OH estrone metabolites. They're proliferative. Okay, they stimulate growth. And 4-OH is particularly nasty as it's carcinogenic and potentially DNA damaging. On the Dutch tests that I run with my clients who have adeno, we almost always see too many of the wrong estrogen metabolites being created, which is not ideal. We don't want to be promoting more tissue growth, right? That's issue number one. Issue number two with estrogen is estrogen clearance. Okay. In the case of adenomyosis, we do not want estrogen hanging around for too long, right? We want to make sure it's being cleared appropriately from the liver and the bowel. If the liver in phase 2 estrogen metabolism, if it isn't clearing estrogen, we've got a situation where it's hanging out for too long. It's staying past its welcome. And again, that's not beneficial in adenomyosis where the tissue is hypersensitive and overexpressed. We see this often as well on the Dutch tests that we run with our clients. Their phase 2 estrogen metabolism is sluggish and estrogen is overstaying its welcome. Both of these scenarios, these excessive metabolites, the poor elimination of estrogen from the liver, are going to contribute to aggravating adenomyosis symptoms like pain, heavy periods, long periods. Now, remember, your doctor isn't looking for this, right? You really should be considering running a Dutch test, a complete hormone test to get insights on how your liver is breaking down and eliminating your estrogens, and working with a qualified practitioner who can help interpret your results and get an appropriate treatment plan in motion. Now, I've really really packed this full today, so I'm going to leave it there. And next week, I'm going to continue into my deep dive with adenomyosis, and I'm going to cover off the role of the gut, the immune system, and inflammation, which really is the meat and potatoes. So stay tuned. In the meantime, feel free to reach out with questions. You're welcome to send me a DM or an email. I'm more than happy to help. And if you're watching this on social media, I would love it if you could like this video. Thank you so much, and we will chat again soon. Bye for now.